It's Sugarcraft, especially if you can get that emblem. It's really easy to get 6 Sugarcraft. You can basically hit it at 6 if you're lucky with a few rolls. Otherwise, you just level up to 7, get that Gwen in, get those 6 Sugarcraft per Gwen with Fiora, and you can get a very nice comp. And if you're lucky, you can get to that final cash out of the cake, that final layer that will give you a a big cash out. And we're getting into game here, and it looks like the portal is going to be golden prelude, which is something that is interesting, especially because it allows you for the option to get some of these hero augments, which have been nerfed. However, some of them are still very prevalent.
Yeah, I would say hero augments. I think the one cost level might be still the strongest overall. Maybe playing
Mm,
around Blitzcrank, for example. But, other reroll options are opening themselves up significantly more. The mages are an option, the Warwick is an option. And this is an interesting start here for You Should Know Me, where I think you have a few powerful ways to play the early game, playing around Eldritch and Warriors, or playing around some Scholars. So a little bit of indecision here in stage one. You don't love to see that, but it is what it is.
yeah, I mean, I think you should know me is in between two minds a little bit. I think definitely focusing a bit more onto that Neela and at least for the Eldritch, because I mean you got two Neelas, so if you can find another lucky one, you can basically get a Neela 2 at stage 2-1. And hopefully we can see how that board evolves. And I'm going to be very interested because you can go a warrior route. You can also do like a mix of Eldritch Warrior, which is an interesting comp that I've seen a fair few times, more than rare. Let's say it like that.
Yeah, I think that Neela is she's a pretty interesting unit to be able to play around. Here we see Big D's augment selection, and going with the magic wand would definitely seem to me, they're trying to play around the scholars. They might be slamming an adaptive helm,
Mm,
might be slamming the Rabadons here. And I think that all makes sense if you are committing yourself to that game plan. Could also go for one of those AP 3 cost rerolls or to
mm.
reroll mages, which I think, benefit a lot from having that extra AP buff. And as we scout around the rest of the lobby, I don't know if we have any incredibly powerful augment choices, but there are a lot of people taking standard lines and playing around them well.
Yeah, I think it's just take a little bit of a broader augment that's not going to focus your comp to strictly narrow it down, because there is a lot of option for diversification later on in stages 3 and 4. Get towards a late game comp. So having a broad augment does seem to be very very standard nowadays, unless you get one of those hero augments and you're like, well, I can't deny it. Something like Zap Attack maybe, or Witchy Wallop.
Yeah, and something that I would comment on as well is that based on the items that people get, based on the items that people like to slam, I feel like this patch has seen a certain amount of degeneracy, and we've seen a certain amount of degeneracy in the competition so far when there are a lot of players who want to contest the same line. I think that there have been games at every level of competition where there are like 3 or 4 Callista players. And we
Mm.
just know for a fact that based on the number of units in the forecast pool, that just cannot happen at this point. Since the rework since set 10.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, especially since you've mentioned Callista, we see one of the lines that is taken with Callista, which is the multi-striker line. And yeah, you could either go for multi-striker Callista, you could go for Fairy Callista, and sometimes those comps intertwine a lot, because when you're playing 5 Fairy, you like to field in triple multi-striker, which someone who is playing a multi-striker line will not enjoy it that much. And we do see uh, body body shot Ben. That's a very interesting name. Going for that multi-striker route, and just hit the heck rim. So that's basically 5 multi-striker once they get to level 5. So I mean, this is a very interesting comp. Multi-strikers, I feel like they have been omnipresent ever since the start of this set.
Yeah, and I would say that when you take the multi-striker emblem, I don't know if you can play around Callista quite as much, right? I think
Mm,
that when you take this, you really want to be leaning more towards like a vertical multi-strikers. And usually that's going to be enabled in particular by re-rolling around either Kassadin or maybe Hecarim. So in this position, maybe we're going for that Kassadin, maybe we're going for that Hecarim, but Body Shot Ben has yet to slam an item, and as a result of that, this round looks a little bit worse than last round, but last
mm,
round really could have been changed even by putting a bow on the Nomzi. And one thing that we maybe haven't seen as much at this level of competition is players using their removers that are given to them every stage. So you can be a little bit more comfortable slamming items every stage if you have a concrete plan for what you are going to remove when neutrals rolls around, and you'll get another remover to play around. That's a really hard thing to do. It's something that top players are getting more and more used to, but at
mm.
every level of competition, I think that it has been a challenge to do so optimally.
Yeah, I think removers being now a very permanent drop in the game is something that players are still getting used to. I think the pros have started to adapt to it, but I don't think everyone else below the level of pro play have adapted to it, like you said. And I mean, you could also get the Tinker charm here, and just get an extra remover. So you are definitely allowed to optimize your items here, and slam early on, especially if you want to go on an early win streak, and then just remove those items and put it on a more suitable carry for later on.
Yeah, for sure. Now, here we have Chris, who's taken the reigning gold option for this early game, and I'm curious to see where they want to go with this augment, right? Because they are full loss streaking. They probably aren't going to be playing, a real board for at least a few more rounds. The earliest you could see them stabilize is at stage 3 2. And if you look across the aisle at that wandering trainer, there is a player in prime position to be playing Fairy Callista with a Fairy
Hmm.
spat and a Preserver spat on that Wandering Trainer. Those are probably the best two plus ones you could ask for in that composition.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, that would be an optimal 7 fairy 2 preserver, or even 3 preserver board if you can get to level 8 or level 9. I think no, yeah, it is level 8. So at level 8, you could end up with 7 fairy, triple preserver, and you would be a very happy camper. And yeah, uh, going back to what you said about Christopher utilizing that training gold augment, is already he's already on 50 gold, has a lot of options to keep open, and I think he just fielded some decent units, some decent one cost and two cost that he could go on a loss streak, but not too big of a loss streak, because you see him 5 losses, 76 HP, which is really good when you're going on an early loss streak. You really don't want to be somewhere below that 70 HP mark just to have enough HP to save, because as we know, player damage has been increased as of the last 2 or 3 patches. So once you're going on loss streaks, you really got to be a bit more careful about what units you field and how you want to manage that loss streak.
Yeah, but Chris seems to be maintaining his composure. Getting a red buff doesn't necessarily seem terrible if you want to play Callista, like having these two bows, but the Rage Blade is definitely going to be a lot more comfortable if Chris wants to go into Smolder, and I think that this spot may lend itself well to playing around that line because you have some of these shapeshifters already constructed, and they might be the front line you got to go with for the mid game here as we do activate the 2 dragon for the anti heal.
I mean, sometimes the board just, the com just makes itself happen for you, because you have the Nomzi, you have double dragon, you have triple shapeshifter, three hunters as well with the Kog'Maw. So it's just, your board is basically telling you, please play me. You have the items, you have the units. Please play me.
Yeah, and we do know that this board loves to go to level 9 fast. There we have the Rage Blade slammed. So if we are playing around this line, I'm wondering what exactly we want to do with these extra bows. We could make the Giant Slayer. I don't know if it's the best item for Smolder, but we could also be a little bit greedy and see what we get in order to complete these items better. We could get a Last Whisper. We could slam this Runeance, and maybe we'll end up making a frontline item as well when it comes to a Briar item.
Yeah, I think something like a Rage Blade red buff would be really interesting for Smolder, but yeah, you have a lot of time to build up your comp, and second augments are coming in. It is going to be some silver augments, which probably not the best choice for our players, but there are some silver augments that can help you out a lot. Final resistance is something that I think is a little bit underrated, because especially if you're playing comps that want to go front to back, is very nice. You see Big D he go for some rerolls. Pandora's bench getting picked up, and Pandora's bench is probably one of the greatest augments you can get when you want to go for a reroll comp.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, you know, there do seem to be a lot of players who are leaning into reroll here. There seem to be a number of players leaning into like these mage lines. I'm curious to see what I believe Big D is playing. Um, there's someone with a Shojin slammed and a Titans on the same unit, and I want to know what exactly the plan is for that because I don't think those items go together on that many units or go together in that many compositions. But we will see. Uh, that is definitely interesting.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just an item holder situation, because it's certainly unorthodox to see a Shojin to be Shojin and a Titans on the same person. Looking at Big D, uh, they have gone for this mage comp with the vanguards, which is something that is fairly standard. Although it does look like it's a little bit more of the level 7 Vex Vega reroll, or at least it's going to be like that, because usually if you're going for the Soraka Seraphine reroll, which has been the flavor of the month uh, so far, you do want to roll at that level 5.
Yeah, and I would say that, I agree overall with the game plan here. Even though there is a contester in the form of Mike Moo, who we've just fought, Big D is in a much better spot to play the level 7 version of this composition because I think the
Hmm.
most important thing for that is that you have a big HP barrier in between you and 8th place because there is a period of time when you go for certain reroll compositions on level 7 where you need to stabilize by hitting the 3-star versions of the units. And if you're not able to do that, then a lot of the time you are going to die out before you are able to hit your game winning board. And on the other hand, I feel like Big D is in a situation where you can get a lot of power with the charms, you can hit your units more comfortably, and you can even go to level 8 if the contest is too strong. But one other thing that I want to point out about this carousel is that there are 2 spatulas and 1 frying pan. So there are a number of players who have the opportunity to get an additional copy of an emblem, an additional copy of an emblem or an additional unit on their board depending on their drops. And what that means is for players like the whichever player has that wandering trainer with the preserver emblem and the fairy emblem, that player is probably going to be shaking in their boots because they have so much power to play with later on.
I mean, if you manage to get a spat there. Oh, and we conveniently take a look right now. It is Nico. I think that's the yeah. So or Neko. Maybe they can instruct us in chat on how to pronounce their nickname. But yeah, you see the spatula sitting right there. You're waiting for a tier to make the fairy emblem, and nine fairy is scary. It is very scary because it basically beats out a lot of boards. There's very few boards in the game that can beat out a fully decked out nine fairy comp.
Yeah, I think that there have been moments where people just hit Nine Fairy and the game is more or less over. And that can be a
Mm.
frustrating thing for the other players in the game, but it is what it is. Here we have Ishinomi's perspective, and I think we are going for something like the Eldritch reroll. But if we are doing that, I don't know if Ishinomi has a really solid game plan to do so, because we're really just not using this Pandora's bench very proactively for whatever rerolling we are doing, and we are not getting as many stacks as we want on the Syndra because we don't have our mana item on her. And I think all of those are combining to put Yushinomi in a situation where there are a lot of players who are going to be outscaling them. We can also see that their first augment double down is one that they haven't been able to play around quite as much in this game. So I think that this is going to pose a lot of challenges, and I hope Yushinomi can turn it around.
I'm very interested in seeing what. Okay, we just hit the high roll because that's an Eldritch unit that has come out from the Pandoras, and we see a Nami, and now the Titans is off the Ash. So now it's interesting to see where that Titans will go. Probably on the Mordekaiser, maybe on the Tom Kench, but I think is this going to turn into a Nami Mordekaiser reroll comp? Because I have seen it before, but it's really a very interesting comp to play.
Yeah, this is a curious position to be in. I want to see Yushinomi be a little bit more decisive about what +1 they want in this situation, because I think this Nasus could find his way onto the board, given we're sitting at 6 Eldritch, and I think
Mm.
Nasus is probably stronger than one of the other units here, but it is what it is. I'm really glad that we have the Mordekaiser 2 online. And yeah, it will be interesting to see where the Titans goes. I would hope it is on this Mordekaiser. And now we are fighting Big D, who finally spent those rolls that they got from Rolling for Days. And it looks like they are in a very fine position for their composition with this Vigar and the Vex fully upgraded. I think that that is a terror to be fighting for Yushinomi right now.
Uh, Also, we have a random Camille just chucked in there at level 7. You know, the 1% hit chance. Very fun and very interesting for you, should know me. And ooh, that's an interesting one. You have vertically inclined and Vanguard crest that could both come in for you should know me, but it seems that he's going to go uh, for the vertically inclined, and now we have. I don't know why Press the Attack came in on a sugar crabbed Gwen board.
See, I think that Body Shot Ben is in the kitchen, and Body Shot Ben has put the multi striker emblem onto that Gwen and is playing around that Gwen as part of that multi striker board. I don't hate the idea of cooking in general, but I think that in this situation, we are not going to be getting a lot of value out of that multi striker emblem on the Gwen. That is just what it is, and I would like to see this Gwen do what it can do, but I don't think it can do a lot. It is almost dead against basically just this Vex, and that might that might be it for Body Shot Ben. Unless they are able to find a Camille, unless they are able to find 7 multi striker, at the very least, and potentially go up to 9 multi striker, I think it just might be over.
I think Body Shop Ben cooked a little bit too much, especially
Yeah,
when you have, especially when you have the frying pan. You could just try to level up to 9, go for those 9 multi-striker, because frying pan plus a bow does make a multi-striker emblem. So you probably could have just gone for that, because you already see the makings of a good board here with the 2-star Hecarim that's been hit right now with the 2-star Castellan. Could have been an item holder for those Jeweled Gauntlet and Archangel. So I really think if this board was constructed just a little bit more differently, it would have been a much better board that could challenge even Big D.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, you know, this is a tough position to be in, because I think that just by trying to play around this Gwen, we've put ourselves in a pretty compromising position. But
Hmm.
hey, it is what it is. I appreciate every effort to innovate. Even at this late stage of the set, I think it's cool to see someone try what they think is right. And we'll see if Gwen is able to beat out the Zillion Bomb. She doesn't take enough damage from it to go down. And there is a victory for Body Shot Ben, keeping him in the game as we see some of the other players in the lobby falling quite low as well. Yushinomi and Neko contesting that last place.
There's a bow and there's another frying pan. So it is going to be the multi-striker emblem. So that means that 7 multi-striker is going to come in for Body Shot Ben. And this is where that Gwen might just be a little bit more powerful, because the healing from every auto attack starts to come in at 7 multi-striker. So, ooh. I mean, it's a difficult spot to be in because you're still level 7. And level 7 is very, very difficult to roll down for a forecast. But I can't help but root for Ben a little bit.
Yeah, I want to see Ben make this work, but I think the setup is just so awkward, right? I think based on the way that Ben has played this, they've not necessarily rolled on the level which optimizes the unit that they want to hit.
Mm.
I think they were holding some Cassidans a minute ago, but now they're not. And we have this lesser champion duplicator, but I don't know if we'll have a good chance to use it. And going up against a fairy board is one of the potential nightmares for this situation, because can we get through this recon? It looks like there's a lot of damage coming through from press the attack, and we just might be able to.
I mean, press the attack is very strong, because of that extra bit of damage amplification that you get, that little bit of true damage. So so it's so difficult to deal with. And I mean, Rakan prides himself on doing a lot of a lot of tanking, but you can't tank true damage. It's never seen before. And Nico has managed to hit the ultimate fairy board, which is nine fairy, and he has the double preserver as well with that Rakan. So I think this board is slowly but surely going to start taking over.
Yeah, I'll say it. This is a nightmare for literally everyone. And this makes things difficult, right? Chris is one of our points leaders. I think Chris seemed to have a strong game plan when they were playing for either Fairy or for Smolder this game. But because they took a lot of losses, they didn't stabilize that well in the mid game. And now you have someone who's in an absurd spot, and it's hard to compete with them when you are low HP. So you really have to hope that you can win every round outside of fighting Neko, and you also have to hope that you fight Neko less frequently than everyone else. So your fate is in Mordog's hands, and it looks like so far that's going well, but not for everybody else in the lobby.
I mean, yeah, Neko has just he has done the classic Mort just hit angle, and it does seem to be giving him a lot of benefits. So I do think that you need a Rage Blade on this Callista to have maximum efficiency, because a Callista without Rage Blade would be let's do the analogy of pizza without the sauce.
Yeah, I think that you do want a little bit of sauce here, but if you
Yeah.
don't get it, I don't even think it's a bad spot. And you do have this you do have this component anvil. Hopefully Neko pops it. Hopefully Neko sees a bow, sees what they want. But as we go around, I think Body Shot Ben is put in a corner, right? The items don't look incredible. The situation doesn't look so hot. We've got Tarek multi-striker with a crown guard. I think that's cool, but we're gonna have to see a lot of work done in order to get from here to like a sixth place.
Yeah, it's 7 multi-striker. This Gwen 2 has not been hit yet, which is something that's very detrimental to this board. I think if Gwen 2 happens here with this 7 multi-striker board and find your center, I think this Gwen is probably a beast that can be unstoppable. But even with the Gwen 1, it seems like Body Shot Ben is doing real fine because he has managed to kill all of that front line, and it's just now the Rise, but the Rise is going to be enough, and Body Shot Ben is sadly going to be the player eliminated in 8th place.
Yeah, I will point out there are a lot of Callistas being taken out of the pool by the player named Nox. And I would say that that's a real challenge for Chris and Neko, who we also saw
Mm.
Neko lose the last round as they went
Yeah,
to level 9. So we'll see if they're able to stabilize or if there is really someone who is capable of taking them down. I will also point out Big D has hit a few very good legendaries on level 7. There is a Nora with Yumi on this board, and there's a Camille on this board, as you pointed out earlier. So, big challenges here for Big D, but I think they're still fine. They built such an HP advantage that the worst place that they could go this game, I think, might be third place. And I think it's most likely that they'll go second place if one of the players below them is, in fact, more powerful.
yeah. I think Neko is probably the top favorite for winning this game. With that 9 fairy board, if he has the Callista 2 and the uh, and Rakan 2, but he's going to take the win against Nox, who already has that Callista 2. Now the Callista 2 comes in for Neko, so we arrived at the opportune time. So definitely a red buff or a Rage Blade needed for this Callista, and that should be the only thing remaining that is going to complete this board. And interestingly enough, the second crown is going on the Milio.
Yeah, I would say that I tend to agree with that decision. I think Melio does do a fair amount of damage, but also Camille just isn't the best user of the secondary fairy crown.
Hmm.
I think that as a result of what Camille does in the fight, she doesn't attack all that frequently despite being a multi-striker, and she doesn't stack it up very efficiently. So when you have the Melio at the end of the fight, it might do a little bit better with that item than the Camille would otherwise do. And hey, you don't have a Rage Blade from your items, but you do have a Rage Blade from the Melio, and this fight doesn't look
Yeah.
close at all, as Neko gives Iushinomi a big hit, and Mike Mu drops out in 7th place.
I mean, people keep falling down. You should know me as next one in the biggest danger. I'm you have. I think Neko probably should have gone for that Rakan, maybe to try and make it 2-star, but still, Neko is surviving. Has the 9 fairies. It's a lot of power for this board, and uh, I mean, looking forward to see what he does. But You Should Know Me is in a very tough spot, and I can't help but look over and see that there are 5 would it be NASA in 5 copies of NASA's? Let's phrase it like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
5
this is
copies of
this is
NASA.
interesting. I think Big D's game plan or Iushinomi's game plan has largely consisted of gambling at this point. Um, we didn't hit a 3-star forecast, so I think we
Mm.
might just lose as we go up against what looks like a pretty strong fairy board with the Callista and the Tristana duo carries. Our Volibear has been lasting a long time, but I don't think we have the damage output to contend with the tank and the scaling DPS of the fairy composition. And unfortunately for Yushinomi, sometimes gambling does not pay, and that's going to be 6th place as far as we can tell.
Yeah, that does look like it's sixth place. Neko is still winning in their board, and I mean, looking at it, both Nox, Christopher, and Neko have all managed to get a two-star Callista. So, we have less forecasts in the pool, but we still have enough for three two stars, which is enough to make a board work here. And I think this is probably the board that is closest to Neko's, and we're going to see a test of how strong this board is right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think Chris's board has as strong a front line, is as strong overall, but the itemization could be superior, and you do have the Ascension. This Callista is going to attack extremely fast at the end of the fight, and as we ascend, we might just be able to crack the opponent's front line, especially because Neko doesn't have the Rakan 2 upgraded yet, and hey, I don't know if this really represents the board strength of Neko, because this is Neko's Ghost, because they might
Hmm.
not necessarily have a charm, and because the next time that this fight happens, Neko might have a good third item for that Callista. But it is promising for Chris to be able to do that. And yeah, like you mentioned, a lot of the players in this lobby who decided to go for this fairy line did hit quite hard. So we'll see if this is something that is going to continue as a trend.
Uh, I think I think Neko's board just needs that Rakan to as quickly as possible because, while Rakan one with the Radiant Crown is extremely strong, it is still a Rakan one. It is not as tanky as it can be, and with something like an Ascension, Christopher can definitely benefit uh from from this Rakan too, and maybe maybe even contest this board right now. And I mean, Christopher is currently in first place. Big D has not managed to hit some of those upgrades, I guess, and is slowly but surely falling down the ranks. And Christopher is looking poised to get at least a top three finish here, especially if he can defeat this Scholar board.
Yeah, I want to point out one thing really quickly. I really like what Chris did with that remover. That is going to affect where the items go when they pop out from Melio. So you can see that the items are going onto the Morgana, or going onto the Camille, and that can make all the difference when you are going into a fight against a dragon, against Eternal. You have this Callista, but the front line stands strong, and the Rise is not able to push through it. So, they're actually not a part of this competition. But hey, good job, Christopher, for knocking them out.
Uh, Christopher has knocked them out. Neko is actually getting eliminated. They lost to Big D, and Nox also took a loss in this round. So these fairy boards are taking losses. I
Yeah, and
mean,
you can see why that happened, right? Big D was able to get to level 8. They have benefited from the entire game of scaling. They were able to get charms, throughout the game. And now
yeah,
they are in a situation where they have the Vigar 3, they have the Vex 3, their contester is gone, and they can take a crack at first place.
yeah, definitely can take a crack at first place. And I mean, Neko didn't hit the Rakan too. That was the big thing that was preventing him from winning the game, and it looks like it didn't come in. And also, I want to point out, uh, you said the Vigar about doing a lot of damage, and also this Vex, but let's not forget that Nora is no slouch as well. Unfortunately, I think this board from Christopher is just way too strong for Big D to handle, as Nox is going to get eliminated. But Christopher and Big D are going to be the two people fighting for that win in game number one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because you could see that Big D didn't have the ability to buy a charm last round. And if there was a golem on Christopher's board, there wasn't a golem on Big D's board. And that could have made the difference. So now you can see that Big D made this play to sell one of the Gallios, or the Gallio 2 for the Gallio 1, and now you were able to buy this charm. If you win this round, then maybe you get the Nora 2 off the carousel. And if you get the Nora 2 off the carousel, then maybe you can win the round after that. But you can see that Chris has another advantage in play, shrouds the backline of Big D, and has the Camille 2 as well, who does a ton of damage to this isolated tank in Vex. And because Vex falls, because that Shroud, because that Spark is gone, I think this fight is going the way of Christopher. What a play for first place here in game 1 of week 3.
I mean, Christopher just utilizing that shroud so effectively, managing to snatch the win in game 1, just shrouding the Veigar from not being able to cast immediately at the start of that round helps him out so much, delaying every other unit's cast. The Rumble got caught in there as well. So, I mean, congratulations to Christopher. Some very high quality gameplay, especially in every game that we've had him featured on broadcast. He's making some very smart plays, some very smart turnarounds, and especially when we see a lot of pivoting, because we've seen a trend that he likes to pivot his board in stage 3. So he is very thoughtful about how he manages to do those things.